Ever looked up at the sky and wondered, what are those fluffy things floating up there? Well, those are what we call clouds. Now you might think of clouds as cotton candy or maybe marshmallows, but in reality, they're made up of something a bit less tasty. Imagine stepping out of a hot shower. You've probably noticed how the bathroom mirrors fog up, right? That's because the hot water from your shower turns into steam, filling the room with water vapor. When this vapor comes into contact with the cooler mirror, it turns back into tiny droplets of water. We call this process condensation. Now, something similar happens in our atmosphere. When the sun heats up bodies of water like oceans, rivers, and lakes, it causes the water to evaporate. This means it turns from a liquid into a gas, rising up into the air. As this warm, moist air rises, it cools down. And just like your bathroom mirror, when this cooler air meets the water vapor, it causes it to condense into tiny water droplets. These droplets are so small and light that they can float in the air. And when billions of these droplets come together, they form what we see as a cloud. There are many types of clouds, each with their own unique shape and height in the sky. Some are fluffy and white, like cumulus clouds, while others are thin and wispy, like cirrus clouds. And then there are the dark, ominous-looking stratus clouds that usually bring rain. And speaking of rain, have you ever wondered how these clouds full of water droplets turn into a downpour? Well, stick around for the next part of our journey through the sky to find out. So next time you see a cloud, remember it's just a big group of tiny water droplets or ice crystals. Now that we know what clouds are, have you ever wondered how rain works? Why do those droplets decide to fall down all of a sudden? Well, let's think of a cloud as a big fluffy sponge floating in the sky. The cloud sponge soaks up water vapor from the air, just like a sponge on your kitchen counter soaks up spilled milk. This process is called evaporation. As the cloud sponge gets filled up with more and more water vapor, it starts to get heavy. Now imagine trying to hold a sponge full of water over your head. What happens? Yep, you got it. It starts to drip. The same thing happens with our cloud sponge. When it can't hold any more water vapor, it starts to let some of it go. This is what we call precipitation. But wait, how does the water vapor turn back into liquid water? Here's where it gets interesting. As the water vapor rises higher in the sky, the temperature drops. This causes the water vapor to cool down and change back into tiny water droplets. These droplets stick together and form what we know as a cloud. But the story doesn't end here. As more water vapor turns into water droplets, the cloud gets heavier and heavier. And just like the sponge, when the cloud can't hold any more water, it starts to drip. Or in other words, it starts to rain. The tiny water droplets combine to form bigger ones. When these droplets become too heavy to float in the air, they fall down as rain. This is the reason why sometimes when it's really hot and humid, you suddenly get a downpour. The air is so full of water vapor that the clouds can't hold it all, and it has to come down. So rain is just the clouds' way of saying, I'm full, time to let some water go. Isn't that fascinating? The next time you see rain pouring down, remember the hard-working clouds and the amazing process of precipitation. It's just another one of nature's incredible ways of keeping the water cycle going. Now here's a bright idea. What causes those bright flashes in the sky during a storm? Well, let's tackle this electrifying question together. You know when you rub a balloon on your hair, and it makes your hair stand on end? That's because you're creating static electricity. Something similar happens in the sky during a storm. Imagine a thundercloud as a giant balloon rubbing against the air around it. As the cloud moves, it rubs against the colder air above and the warmer air below. This rubbing creates static electricity within the cloud. Just like your hair standing up from the balloon, the static electricity in the cloud wants to go somewhere. It builds up and builds up until it just can't hold on anymore. It needs to find the quickest route to release all that energy. But where? Well, it looks for the easiest path to the ground, which usually means the tallest object around. It could be a tree, a skyscraper, or even a person if they're unlucky. When the electricity finds its path, it releases all that built-up energy in a flash. That's what we see as a lightning bolt. But wait, there's more. This electrical discharge is so powerful that it heats the air around it to an incredible 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than the surface of the sun. This sudden heating causes the air to expand rapidly and then cool down just as quickly, creating a shockwave. That's the thunder we hear after we see a lightning bolt. So the next time you're watching a storm, remember that each lightning bolt is a result of an enormous amount of static electricity looking for a way out of the cloud, just like your hair standing up from the balloon. So lightning is just Mother Nature's way of showing off her electric personality. Ever heard of making it rain? On purpose? No, not throwing money around, but actual rain. Well, that's called weather modification, and one of the most common methods is something known as cloud seeding. Weather modification is the act of intentionally manipulating or altering the weather. It's like being a weather wizard, only with science instead of magic. The most common reason for weather modification is to increase rainfall, which can help in areas suffering from drought. Now let's talk about cloud seeding. Imagine you're baking a cake. You've got your basic ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs. But to make it just right, you add in some vanilla extract or maybe a pinch of cinnamon. That's what cloud seeding is like. Cloud seeding is the process of adding substances to clouds to encourage them to produce rain. The substances, let's call them our vanilla extract, are usually salts, like silver iodide, potassium iodide, or liquid propane. These substances encourage the tiny droplets of water in the cloud to form into bigger droplets, which eventually become heavy enough to fall as rain. Just like adding vanilla to your cake mix, cloud seeding doesn't always guarantee success. The right conditions still need to be in place. For instance, if you don't have any eggs for your cake, adding vanilla isn't going to help much. Similarly, if there aren't enough water droplets in the cloud, the seeding may not produce rain, but when it works, it can be incredibly helpful. Cloud seeding has been used to increase water supply, suppress hail, and even clear fog. So, next time you're stuck in a drought and wishing for rain, remember that sometimes we humans can give Mother Nature a little nudge. We're not just at the mercy of the weather, we can actually do something about it. So, with a little human help, clouds can give us rain whenever we need it. Talk about convenient. Now that we're cloud experts, how about some fun facts and a quick quiz to test your knowledge? Let's start with some fun facts. Did you know that clouds are not as light and fluffy as they seem? In fact, a single cumulus cloud can weigh up to 1 million pounds. That's like 100 elephants floating in the sky. And speaking of rain, it doesn't always reach the ground. Sometimes it evaporates while still in the air, a phenomenon known as virga. Now let's talk about lightning. A lightning strike can reach a temperature of 30,000 Kelvin. That's 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And what about thunder? It's actually the sound of air expanding rapidly in the lightning's path, and not the clouds having a bowling match, as some might believe. As for weather modification, did you know that cloud seeding isn't just science fiction? It's a real process where particles are released into the clouds to stimulate rainfall. This technique has been used to increase water supply, reduce hail, and even clear fog. Alright, let's move on to the quiz. I'll ask 3 questions. Try to remember what we've learned today. Ready? Here we go. Question 1. How much can a cumulus cloud weigh? Question 2. What causes the sound of thunder? And finally, question 3. What is the purpose of cloud seeding? Take a moment to think about your answers. And don't worry if you're not sure. The best part about learning is getting to find out new things. So, the answers are: 1. A cumulus cloud can weigh up to 1 million pounds. 2. The sound of thunder is caused by air expanding rapidly in the path of lightning. And 3. Cloud seeding is used to stimulate rainfall, reduce hail, and clear fog. Remember, every cloud has a silver lining, and in our case, that silver lining is all the cool things we learned today. Keep looking up.